The Randall County Courthouse is a very important piece of Randall County history. It was built in 1909 and it nearly got torn down several times until we finally restored it. But it's really the center of town. It was the center of authority, a center of everything that had to do with the county. And as a result, it related to the lives of thousands and thousands of individuals during its history.
If you were Bill Green, you would probably look at the Canyon Town Square a little differently than most folks.
He's a walking encyclopedia when it comes to exhibitry and history of the area.
Johnston's Hardware over here was buildings that were built in the mid-1920s by some local investors. And the first occupants were the Warren family, who had the People's Store, and later on they changed it to Warren, and now it's been restored. It's just a beautiful building with a beautiful brickwork, and it looks very much like it did.
Green is a public historian. His office is on the square, above the old First National Bank. He sees history where others may see retail.
Well, this is the old Olympic Theater across the street. It was built in the mid-1920s by the Wooten family, who operated it I think until about the 1970s. It was the only movie theater in town, so of course it was a very popular place to go. And when it was built, it was the only building in town that had refrigeration air conditioning.
He's really a researcher, and he digs down until he can get all the facts and stuff like this.
Well, this is my favorite car in the museum. This is a 1910 Zimmerman that was made in Auburn, Indiana.
Green was the curator of history at the Panhandle Plains Historical Museum 17 years.
I had a lot of fun working in the museum, and particularly learning stories about some of the artifacts and about the people who had lived here.
His colleagues remember him well.
I learned more from him than any other person I've ever worked with. And quite frankly, we were blessed to have him for the 15 years that we did. He's forgotten more Texas history than I'll ever know in my whole life.
These days, Green does a variety of history-related research.
I do genealogy, I do museum work, I do any kind of research. People write and say, I'm hunting for my ancestor, or my ancestor lived in Canyon or Amarillo.
And he collects Texas art with historical value.
This little statue of a horse is by Grant Speed. He's deceased now, but he grew up in San Angelo, where I did. I'd always wanted one of his pieces of sculpture, and so I was able to find one. It's important to know history so that we can avoid some of past mistakes, although I think if you study our history, maybe we don't learn very much from the mistakes that we've made in the past, and that's a frustrating kind of feeling, I think, that we don't learn as much as we should.
Celebrating the Panhandle spirit, Larry Lemmons, Pronews 7.